Men and sport, a timeless means of entertainment. Some men hit home runs, others are curb stomped. Some win Cy Youngs, others get dunked on. Some men become MVPs, others have 70 saves in a game. But your stats won't matter here. Here we discuss the issues, search the hearts of men, and judge in vivid detail. Only raw takes will do. This is Sports Analysis. This is Sports Unchained. This is Sporticus! Hey guys, Sporticus is all over social media. You can find us on Rockfin. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Anchor, Twitter, and Patreon. All under Sporticus or Sporticus Live. Come holla at us.
What is up, everyone? It is Sporticus MMA time, brought to you by MMA Torch. I am your host today, riding the solo train. It is Sidemount Sam Ryther. How is everyone doing after this weekend? I just have to say, I am very excited to talk about this card. Unfortunately, Sean and I couldn't coordinate schedules in time. He's got a busy week ahead of him. I have a little bit more free time, so here I am. I am going to bring you all the good stuff about this last weekend. Maybe some extra stuff too. So, how is everyone? I am doing great. I loved this card this weekend. It was UFC 261. It was the much anticipated rematch between Kamaru Usman and Jorge Masvidal. And I have to tell you guys, coming into this fight before Saturday, I was telling anyone who would listen, anyone who's a fan of fighting, anyone who was thinking about watching it or maybe not, I told everyone to make it a priority for your day. You know, it's kind of funny too. You tell people, hey, like, you know, are you interested in UFC? Oh yeah, I love watching fights. Well, you watching this weekend? No. Okay, well then don't tell me you love watching the fights if it's a big nah coming into a triple championship card. Like, come on, man. Who are you fooling? Just watch. And we're like, well, it's $70. All right, well, you know, I'm not going to encourage people to illegally stream, but I am encouraging people to watch it. So, I mean, $70, man, if you don't have it, you don't have it. And I have much respect for those that don't. You know, everyone's situation's different, but if that's the case, hey man, some websites that you can find online, might have it for free. I don't know. But, you'll have to find those, you know, on your own or from a friend, because I do not have any. In fact, I actually am a full subscriber to the ESPN Plus app. And I buy every card whenever I can. If money is an issue, then I really try to keep up on the fights in some way. So that's all I'll say about that. I want you guys to understand one thing about this podcast and about what Sean and I really want to accomplish with it. We are trying to get you guys excited about this sport. And oh man, if you are on the fence, this last Saturday had everything. So strap in, guys. We're about to get down to the nitty gritty. But a few things that I want to take care of first. Number one, I do want to talk more about Sean not being here. Sean, if you're listening, which I know you will be because I'm sending this to you, man, I'm already feeling pretty good about this podcast. I think I might go solo. Nah, I'm just kidding. I miss you, brother. We'll coordinate soon, and we'll get more of these podcasts going as our schedules even out a little bit. But Sean is my friend and my host, my actual host of this show. I am just filling in right now, and if you don't miss him, you should, because he brings a great element to this show. And well, I couldn't be here and doing this without him. So, I mean, that's enough said right there, right? Like, but Sean would also want me to hit all the highlights of this last weekend, including, the prelim cards and everything. And I watched all of them. I watched the earlies, the prelims, and the main. And, I have to say that coming into even the prelim fights, I was excited. And I gotta be honest, I didn't know any of the people that were fighting on the prelim cards, the earlies or the main prelims. um, it was really interesting to see, since the ESPN Plus deal has gone down with UFC. Well, that in a large way really made the UFC a sport. You know what I mean? Like a bona fide baseball, football, basketball type of sport. And it's gaining so much traction now because people who have the ESPN Plus apps for other reasons, now they're being exposed to MMA, and there's a lot of content on there. There's not as much as there probably could be, but there's a lot of UFC content on there. And at least the last couple that I've tried to watch, after the UFC events, it'll let you go back and rewatch them, so if you're already paying for the app, there's some more, if you're not already paying for the app, I would suggest considering it. I don't mean to plug ESPN right here. It's more of a Disney thing, and I love Disney, but I'm not trying to plug them. Just saying, if you're a fight fan and just can't get enough fight content, it's all there. So when it comes down to these fights, I like to sit there and watch if I can and have the time through my day. I like to rewatch, each fighter that's in the main card's last fight. And, being a rematch, like an immediate rematch between these two, or pretty immediate. Like the last fight either of them have was, Kamaru Usman beat Gilbert Burns after Gilbert Burns absolutely rocked him in the first round. And then Kamaru Usman just put a stop to that, so coming into this fight, I was rewatching that. And I was like, all right, well, hey man, Usman's human, dude. He has a chin. He has a button you can push. How big that button is and where it is on his face, I don't really know, man. Gilbert Burns seemed to find at least get close to it. So I'm thinking about the first Masvidal fight too, which I did rewatch, and oh man, that was so exciting. And you really get into the nitty gritties of the exchanges that Burns and Usman had, which was after the Masvidal fight, right? The first Masvidal fight. And both Masvidal and Gilbert Burns together might be combined at the level that Usman is now apparently at, but that's combined, man. Both of them are severely lacking. And after this weekend, if you were still doubting Kamaru Usman like I have been doubting him, you gotta reconsider. You gotta reconsider, because Kamaru Usman is here to stay. And that Nigerian power, that African power, that Cameroonian power, that African power, that is just on display. You have 3 bona fide champions right now. Izzy Adesanya, Kamaru Usman, and Francis Ngannou. They are representing their home countries about as well as you can represent your home country, man. Like, think about like when Conor McGregor won, and just how many more Irish fans there were at press conferences or weigh-ins or UFC events, or even the fight nights when like Joe Duffy would fight, or if there's another Irish fighter on the card, was it Paul Felder is also pretty Irish. Like, there's a lot of people that rep the Irish flag, and that's in large part because of people like Conor McGregor winning championships and putting them on the map. And up until now, man, like, there's been good African American fighters, but there's never been like true African champions. And we have 3 of them right now. And dude, it is impressive. Just like the Polish, with Jan Blachowicz and, Joanna Jacek, the striking levels that are coming out of Poland now because of the standard that fighters like that have set. Same thing with Africa, same thing with, China with Zhang Wei Li. There's so many of these countries just producing. I mean, I think the scariest one is probably Dagestan. Like, look at Khabib, and then look at everyone who's followed him since. Nobody tries to wrestle somebody from Dagestan. Does anyone notice that? Or is that just me? I mean, yeah, you could try your stand-up with them and maybe you'll catch one of them, but damn, that Dagestani wrestling core, whew, I don't know what it is, but I buy it. I do buy it, so like it's such an exciting time right now to be a fight fan. And, I keep, deviating from the point, but the point is this weekend with these, these early prelims, we had a bunch of guys I've never heard of, and I honestly, like, looking back on all the names, I only heard them once when I was watching, and I mean, a couple of times while I was watching, but like just the one day, and I can't pronounce some of them, and that's my own fault. But looking at some of these guys, like there was, a TKO, there's a KO, there was two really hard fought decisions. Like even though that the UFC can never predict how a card's going to come out, since the ESPN deal, when they, like I said, were now being considered a sport, these guys are putting on such great matchups. Like stylistically, even if I disagree with where they go with some of the contenders or who gets the next, shot at the title, because, there is a monetary aspect. You got to consider the fans and the money and, the setup and everything. Like, you got to consider a lot of things going into a fight. But like, by and large, even the contenders have made a lot more sense. Like even guys like Conor McGregor, for instance, he came in, he got his ass kicked by Dustin Poirier after beating, Donald Cerrone, and, they were about to give him a title shot, and then, Poirier lost, or, sorry, I might have that wrong, but, then he gets to face Poirier, who didn't have the title, but like, basically the winner of that fight, could have easily been given another title shot. Poirier wins, and now Dustin Poirier is doing the right thing and fighting him a third time. While it's still fresh, while there has been, time for, both of them to train and understand each other better, in terms of like, viewing fight footage and stuff, like it's, it's an exciting time to be a fan of a lot of divisions in the UFC. Even in other things like Bellator, there's a lot of divisions in those that are really, really plentiful, but the UFC, you have to be at a certain level, man. And any of these guys on these early prelims could go to Bellator and become at least a top 10er by an event from now, maybe, if it took that. Like, that's the difference. Like, maybe the best of the best in Bellator could come to the UFC like Michael Chandler and knock out a guy like Dan Hooker, who is high level, but now we're seeing that there's a clear-cut difference in athleticism, and ESPN, UFC, just that dynamic has created such good matchups that we're no longer getting those Hollywood matchups. We're no longer getting, just guys that need to fight just because of where they are in the standings or like what they did their last fight. Like, we're actually getting really, really intentional, intelligent matchups. So like a lot of these fights are so much better. Like, oh man, and then you look back at the preliminary card, and every one of those fights was actually like, if you're a hardcore UFC fan, every single name on that prelim card. Like, this card was basically like an 8 or a 9 fight main card because of how good the prelims were. And then, the early prelims actually made it even better just by giving, people that were watching earlier just turned it on at the party just to have it on, and man, this sport is taking off right now, guys. First fight of the prelims, you had Pat Sabatini versus Tristan, is it McConnell? No, it's Tristan Connolly. I don't know, man. I think Sabatini, did a pretty good job of controlling the entire fight, but, Connolly did land some pretty good shots. I'm not going to say too much on all these, but I just want to go over, these guys' names just to put them in your head, so next time there's a UFC event, it's probably going to be a fight night for a lot of these guys on this, early prelim card. But like, Pat Sabatini, or the next one, Brandon Allen or Carl Robertson, or, Dwight Grant, or, Stefan Sekulic, the guy that Grant fought, like even Randy Brown, who, beat Alex Oliveira pretty handily, man. Like that was, Alex Oliveira I've never been impressed with him, but yeah, I'll get to that one in a second. But, Carl Robertson versus Brendan Oliveira, sorry, Carl Robertson versus Brendan Allen ended in submission, but at the same time, like, Brendan Allen didn't look all that bad. I mean, Robertson definitely came in to fight, obviously. So, I really kind of want to see Brendan Allen, versus a better fighter. So I don't know, that there's not a lot that I can really say about that, except for both of them came to fight. And it was obvious that when push came to shove, Brendan Allen had better jiu-jitsu, in my opinion, better stand-up. He looked like he was ready to fight somebody a little bit better next. So there's that. But then you had Dwight Grant win an extremely questionable fight against, Stefan, Sekulic. I think that's how they say it. It's like Sekulic. I don't know. Sekulic. No, it's not Italian. I'm sorry. But Stefan Sekulic. I can't feel, there's a linguistic perfectionist in me, and it wants to say it right. I just, can't. But, Stefan, I'm gonna start calling him Sekulic. So Stefan Sekulic, I felt like he controlled the fight, the entire fight. He was the more aggressive. I mean, let's look at the stats here, guys. Like, I'm gonna pull up some stats really quick, but Sekulic, he was always throwing more accurate, and that's just from like an eye test sort of perspective. So my phone would load because I've got everything else on right now too. This is where I've got to look it up. All right. So, looking at the stats. Well, I mean, yeah, okay. I mean, whew, sorry, I'm trying to soak these in right now, but Sekulic was definitely more conservative with the striking, but the interesting part is he was outstruck by such a volume, apparently according to these numbers, that actually really surprised me, because I don't feel like Grant was either hitting him or doing any damage at all, and we're looking at it out of, one takedown attempt, Grant scored a takedown, but then you have 7 takedown attempts and 3 takedowns with a submission attempt, which arguably, if he'd had another 10 seconds on the clock, oh dude, he was going to tap or at least fall asleep. So, saved by the bell, man. So I just, the stats tell a different story. And if I was going to look at this without having seen it, which I did see it, but if I was to look at it without having seen it, and I saw a split decision with these types of stats, I would honestly say that's actually pretty fair. I didn't realize that the striking differential was what it was, because, I just pulling it up now, you guys got the raw first take on it, but now that it's kind of sinking in, Sekulic went 39 of 59. That's definitely a better percentage than, what is that? 52 and 160 for Grant? Like, those are total strikes, and neither of them knocked the other down. Significant strikes, basically anything that landed in the total strike category was a significant strike for Sekulic. So he landed 33 out of 52 attempts, but remember, his strike total was 39 of 59. So, I mean, pretty much anything he threw with authority, and it landed. And that, like I said, that's a better percentage than, whatever total strikes Grant had, which was in the 160s, and it was at least, what was it, 52? Yeah, but then you look at the significant strikes, and those aren't much different either. It's 49 out of 156 for Grant, in the significant strikes. And it's just like, man, when you're throwing over 130 strikes, like, and then like, I guess your total strike count would be, nearly 170. Like, it blows my mind that people don't see like the inaccuracies. Like, if you're not gonna land those, like, it doesn't even mean you're more aggressive. It just means, honestly, to me, it means you're kind of the worst fighter. Like, if you're just throwing a bunch of punches and not landing them, or throwing a bunch of kicks and not landing them, like, come on. But the other guy, he's basically over 50% effective with anything he throws. Total strikes, significant strikes, whatever. He's basically right on 50%. You're under 50%. So who outstruck who? I don't know, man. If we're going to go by volume, obviously you outstruck the other guy. But if we're going to go by quality, which is, I think, what we're starting to head towards as a judging base, and it's starting to show signs of really turning the corner. We're having less and less bad decisions. But this one was a miss. And I think it's, looking at the stats, I think it might just have something to do with the fact that if you see one guy throwing more punches, sometimes if you don't have a martial arts background or you've never been in a fight in your life, just because people are throwing punches, a lot of them, doesn't mean they're actually doing anything. They always say, it takes one, not it takes 1,000. So, like, what are we really talking about? But that's kind of an interesting take. I hadn't looked at the stats on that. So I'm glad that I was able to pull that up with you guys. And I mean, even stuff like body shots, like 10 of 17 for Grant and then 5 of 7 for Sekulic. Like, obviously when Sekulic threw a shot, whether it be some sort of a punch or kick, he landed it. The only thing he's not really even close, he's relatively close. He's just about 50% on takedowns too, which if you try to take somebody down 7 times and land 3 of them, I think he landed one a round pretty much. Like, that averages out to 1 a round, but I think he literally did 1 a round. So if you factor that in, one of those takedowns in whatever round that Grant got his takedown, that negates it. So he's technically more up 2 takedowns to none, because you have to factor the takedown and control time. And since Grant got a takedown and lasted 25 seconds on top, and out of the 3 takedowns that Sekulic landed, he had about 2 minutes and 5 seconds of takedown time. Like, who really controlled the ground game? So that was such a good fight. And I heard Sekulic hasn't fought in like a year or two due to like an injury. Like, it was something else COVID. It was before COVID. So he was out before COVID, but it was something like that, like an injury or something that like he just couldn't heal from in time. And then COVID happened and he just ended up not being able to fight for like the last 2 years or something. But like, if that's how he looked with a little bit of ring rust, I'm down to watch him fight again. And Grant, I really like his fight nickname, which is the Body Snatcher. And so, like, if he's also going to be throwing 160, 170 strikes a fight, not a game, but every fight he's going to be throwing that many strikes, I'll also watch him too, because that means he's not afraid to trade, and he can also take a punch, at least from Sekulic. So, both of those guys I'm going to watch again. Now, a fight of people that I don't, like I alluded to earlier, I don't really care for Alexander Oliveira. There's only one Oliveira that I care about, and it's Charles Oliveira, and he's about to be the new champ that I've been calling for a long time. And, if Sean was here, he'd be hyping me up about it because he knows. But, the Brown versus Oliveira fight, in like the first maybe minute of that fight, because it only lasted the first round and it only lasted about 3 minutes. But in the first minute of that fight, I was like, all right. Like, Oliveira's there to trade. He's there to talk some shit. He's there to, fucking fire back. And then all of a sudden, Brown just turned the corner. And it was like somebody who was like jogging with you when you're sprinting, and then they start sprinting and just take off ahead of you. Like, that's what that fight looked like. At a certain point, Oliveira looked way outmatched and just a little scared, to be honest. Yeah, I said it. You looked a little scared. But no, I'm just joking. I'd be crapping my pants if I was in there with either of them. So, I, I mean, this was a weird one because at the end there was a little bit of drama with Brown or whatever, and God, man, you pay the money to ESPN, you pay the money for the fight, and you just want to hear what's going on when one guy talks shit to another after he whips his ass. Like when he's still talking shit, there's a problem. Like somebody dropped some sort of bomb that they weren't supposed to drop, like or somebody did something weren't supposed to do with somebody's girlfriend. I don't know. But at the end of the fight, when Joe Rogan is asking you, hey, what's up, man? Like, what was that about? And you're telling people to go to your Twitch, dude, we are in a different day and age. Like, that's your time, dude. You've been given all the excuse to just talk shit about somebody. Like, this motherfucker did this motherfucker, like, he ate my peanut butter sandwich when I had my name on it in the fridge. Like, I don't know, dude. It just struck me as weird that Joe Rogan, who people want to be interviewed by, but never can be, and these fighters who win at these big events, even like the prelim guys, even all those guys in the early prelims, I'm pretty sure even get Joe Rogan's interview. It might be 30 seconds instead of, 2 minutes, but like, like, it's a Joe Rogan interview. This dude is asking you, like, he might talk about it on his podcast. Hell, if it's a good enough story, you just won, he might invite you on his podcast. All he's asking you is, what's the drama? And so Brown goes like, no, visit my Twitch. And then Rogan continues with the fight interview, gets whatever, questions answered that he asked. And then the sly dog, the godfather of any MMA podcast, is sitting there like, all right, no, but for real, what's the drama? And you're like, yeah, dude, visit my Twitch. Like, that takes some big balls. Cause, like, Joe Rogan be like, what's your deepest, darkest secret? I would have told him before he finished the sentence. Like, it wouldn't even matter. Like, oh, I like horses to kick me in the face. Like, I don't know. Like, but like, that's Joe fucking Rogan. And this guy he basically doesn't give a shit who's asking him the question. He's like, nope, visit my Twitch. And that was such a pro move right there. Like, I don't know if that was like all from him or if like somebody said, hey, when Rogan asks you what the hell's going on, don't fucking tell him. Like, it makes me laugh thinking about because so he's just like, okay. He's like, in his head, he's just like, well, it's Joe Rogan, but I'm being told this. Well, I could get more Twitch followers. And that was probably the selling point to him. Oh shit, more people are going to watch me on Twitch. Like, come on, dude. Like, that's actually pretty fucking funny if you think about it. So, I'll end it right there because that's for that fight. But like, damn, dude, that was a pro move to just, beat the shit out of a guy, talk a bunch of shit afterwards, and then tell people if you want to know what the story is, visit my social media account. It's like, okay. How many apps do I need to find out a little bit of MMA drama, guys? I don't know. But let's get to this main card. Oh my God. Guys, please, for 1 second, let's all take a moment to be thankful for this card right now. Like, everything happened on this main card. Like I said, there was something for everyone except for people with weak stomachs. So, and you know what? To be honest, I don't care. There's probably not even a measurable demographic in the MMA market for people with weak stomachs. Cause like, it had everything. It had drama. It had intensity. It had legs breaking. It had a lot of things that you just don't see very often, but are very, very much so a part of the sport in ways that we don't see as fans watching it on TV. And man, the first fight between Anthony Smith and what is it, Jimmy Crute? But I'll just call him Crute from now on. But that first fight, I'm not a big Anthony Smith fan, and I really didn't even think he deserved the John Jones fight. And I'm not a big Smith fan as a fighter. Like, I don't think he's like a bad guy. I don't have anything like Sean really hates Cody Garbrandt. And that's hilarious to me. Like, I couldn't bring myself to hate somebody like that I didn't know, but, then again, I do. There's definitely be like sports stars who have screwed me over in fantasy football that, whatever, man. Like, not a huge fan of yours. You're kind of a bitch. I'm not going to name names. But because Sean would love to name names right now. Again, he would probably be like, yeah, Cody Garbrandt, get your bum ass off the couch and fucking fight somebody or shut the fuck up. And, that's not really my game. Although I do agree though, Cody Garbrandt, could you please get the fuck up off the couch and, fucking fight somebody, please? So that was a shout out to my boy Sean. Again, I miss you, bro. But the Smith and Crute fight, man, we saw Anthony Smith actually come to battle because Crute's been looking decent and he's young, and everyone's excited about him. So this was supposed to be his test, but yet everyone was counting Anthony Smith out. And I don't think that's right. Like, I'm not a huge fan, but like, you can't count that guy out. He's gonna try to at least evolve, whether he's gonna be good enough or not. I guess I'm a little hard on him because of, the John Jones loss. I really saw the difference in, like where he was versus where he is now versus where he would need to be to beat somebody like Jones, or in this case, I guess Blachowicz. Like, well, he's on the right path after this weekend. He was popping that jab so well. It was impressive to see because when somebody can develop a jab, like GSP late in his career developed that jab and broke, Koscheck's orbital. What was it? Kamaru Usman in the Kobe Covington fight started landing a jab and just really did a lot of damage with it. So that jab, if you can get a rhythm with it, if you can pop that thing like Anthony Smith did on Jimmy Crute, you can really upset somebody's timing. You can upset their game plan, and you're going to actually end up doing a lot of damage. Because it may take 50 jabs before you really like see the damage, but you're going to feel it well before that. And all it takes is just one good jab in your cut, and that could be the first one. It could be the last one. It could be somewhere in between. But popping a jab like that is just, it was beautiful. And Jimmy Crute was responding because Smith almost had a good enough jab to control the fight. And Jimmy Crute, like, I keep calling him Jimmy like I know that's his name. I really should just check. But Crute, when Crute was taking the jab, and you can see like every jab was heavier and heavier, just hitting him right in the same spot. But Crute kept his game plan, kept his cool. And that's what helped him. Is he then started throwing, more leg kicks and blah, 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 blah. Like, he was actually, in my opinion, controlling the fight every bit as much as Smith was with that jab. So you have, Anthony Smith popping the jab, you have Jimmy Crute responding, and then Anthony Smith just rifles off a motherfucker of a kick. Like, that's the type of kick that Chris Weidman in the next fight was trying to land. And yes, I will get to that too. But damn. Like, did anyone really like see that kick when they played it on replay? That's about as well as you can place a kick. It looked like he dislocated his leg, but no, he smacked the nerve so perfectly that it fucking killed the mobility. Like, hey, thank you to Crute for being a warrior and trying, but dude, I was ready for him to stop pacing around and trying to show how tough he was. I believed him. He just needed to lay down and let him take him on like a gurney or like a wheelchair or something to the back. Like, please stop walking. Like, oh man, heart of a champion though. And that's why I want to watch him fight again. So Anthony Smith too. Both of these guys had an exchange in the ring, and I don't remember the specific wording, but it was something to the effect both of them had so much respect for each other, man. I love this sport for that reason. When there's something true to be respected from each other, it's found. And it's crazy because it's so personal. It's not like teams embracing teams, which is cool, but it's a little superficial. It's like a hug for everyone all around, But when it's MMA, these people are looking each other in the eye and saying these things on national television, or pretty close to at least, pay-per-view, but like there's millions of people watching. you could really show some bitch colors by, saying the wrong thing or whatever, but that it's such a pure moment. Like, of course, I'm going to get to the Usman Masvidal one, but like when Masvidal and Ben Askren had their fight and, the lead up was super dramatic, Masvidal just didn't even stop talking shit, knocked him out in 5 seconds, kept trying to hit him, was talking shit to him while he's out cold, talk shit after talk shit, in the interview, like everything just does not like Ben Askren. And hey, fair enough, man. Doesn't sound like Askren's too fond of him still either, but at the same time, there was some actual like animosity there, whereas like, coming into this fight with Usman, there was some like, hey man, you gave me your best on 6 days being in shape. Like, let's see where we're at with the full camp for each other. And, we're going to get to that, of course, but damn, did we see it, but back to that Smith and Crute fight, like, even just looking at their numbers, these guys are really not far. This was actually every bit of the fight that we all saw, statistically speaking, like, they really didn't have a big strike, total strike differential. What Smith lacked in total strikes, he made up for in the advantage with significant strikes. Their head shots were a little bit different, in terms of, quantity, but in terms of quality, like I would argue that Crute landed some pretty convincing shots on, Anthony Smith. And then, they're looking at stuff like leg shots, and this one's actually pretty interesting to me. So both of these guys batted 1,000 with their leg shots. So Jimmy Crute, I'm pretty sure it's Jimmy Crute. Crute landed 9 of 9 attempts, and that's pretty impressive. Again, it was a 1-round fight that, had to be doctor stoppage. But when you look across the aisle at Anthony Smith, he was 2 of 2. And I honestly, like, thinking back now, I don't even remember when he threw the other one. I thought that was his only leg kick up to that point. So I'm kind of surprised, but I was about to say, throwing one leg kick and getting a knockout, that is the new cool thing to do in MMA. So whether that be one leg kick and then you're knocked out because you fold your leg over and broke it, or because you knocked the other guy's leg so badly he can't feel it and it keeps buckling on him and it's gross. Like, whatever, man. Like, leg kicks are a real bitch, and it's crazy how effective they are. So man, I honestly I don't know what's next for either of these guys. To be perfectly fair, because of the ending and because of the fight that I saw leading into that ending, wouldn't be opposed to seeing a rematch. Now, if Anthony Smith just kicks him in the leg and, fucks him up like that again, all right, like, you did it twice, like, we don't need to see it again. But, like, I don't think that Crute was necessarily going, on a trajectory towards the loss. So, like, I don't know. Looking back on it, I kind of want to see him fight again, guys. I mean, you can't really, like, this isn't interactive, but like, I want to know what you guys think. I want to know what Sean thinks. But no, I'd really like to see these guys fight again, because I don't feel like we saw a clear cut winner. I feel like, in the case of the next fight with Uriah Hall and Chris Weidman, we more saw the result of something that should have been, well, I mean, of course, like, the guy couldn't walk and then Chris Weidman broke his leg. Like, those guys can't keep going. It's not like, I'm sure if Chris Weidman, could stuff the pain for a second, he'd be like, no, I'll fucking just hop on one leg and punch him. But like, that, it's not the reality. And as much as Crute wanted to fight through that, leg, pretty gnarly, like, leg injury, like, I don't want to see you walk and have your toe dragging behind you. You know what I mean? Like, that's not, I don't want to see somebody fight another professional fighter with that kind of disadvantage. Like, if you can hide it, hey man, do your thing, but he couldn't hide it. And yeah, man, I'm really, really glad that they stopped that fight, because that was not going to be any better. And you couldn't even at that point, if they had let it go, you couldn't even be mad at Anthony Smith for finishing the fight, man. Like, and I can't imagine that he wouldn't have thrown another leg kick. You see the guy limping towards you and he just has his hands up, and you know that he needs to keep at least one leg down to keep a base, so he's not throwing a kick. Yeah, you throw kicks. Like, And I'm sorry, man, but if it's my 100 grand or your 100 grand, I'm gonna take my 100 grand. You know what I mean? So I'm glad they called that fight. It wasn't going to get better for Crute, and I'm glad that he at least tried to have the warrior spirit and didn't call it off himself. You know, and like I'll still be glad about that for people at least trying to be the beast, because there are people around him who do get to make the call to not let them. And that's why doctor stoppages to me are perfectly legitimate. You know, like if somebody's looking at you being like, dude, you're not, this isn't going to end well, and you want to die in your shield, hey, that's fine, man. But that's just, you can't do that. You know, you can't do that to a human being, like, because sometimes we can't get out of our own way, you know, and you have to have somebody who can make that call. So I'm really, really glad that that's the way that they ended up calling the Crute Smith fight after that. But again, to close on it, I'd really like to see him fight again. So Dana White, if you're listening, bro, make that fight happen again. So then we shoot up to the next fight, and this is really like a case of like, you see like somebody get hit, like you see a pedestrian get hit by a guy on a bike, and then you see that same guy on a bike get hit by a guy in a car. Like it's just like, ooh, oh, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, one of them sucks, man, but you're gonna be fine. The other one might kill you, or at the very least, something's gonna be different. And oh man, a quick story about this Chris Weidman thing being so crazy relevant to just my life as a mixed martial arts fan. My dad, he was a 3-sport athlete. He was, you know, he was born in the 50s, raised in the 60s, 70s, you know, as a kid going through school. So he was pretty hard nosed. You know, he grew up in a time where, you know, certain things that are illegal today in football just weren't illegal then. You know, you could definitely plow over somebody. Same thing with baseball, or I think he played basketball too, but he was never, you know, a real combat sports guy. And I'd heard a funny story about him, you know, actually like, you know, during lunch being a pretty good boxer, which makes perfect sense. He was super athletic. He is super athletic. He's not dead. God forbid. I haven't talked to him for a few days. I'm pretty sure he's not, but no, he was super athletic as a kid. And, you know, so it makes perfect sense that he could actually throw hands pretty well. He's never struck me as a strong or a tough man otherwise. And that's completely irrelevant. But like, it is crazy when my uncle was like, no, your dad used to box people up at lunchtime. And it's just like, that just seems like like, you know, a Ryther family thing to do, is be like, you know, pretty quiet, unassuming, and then just box people up at lunchtime. You know, so I'm surprised I didn't do more of it now that I know it runs in the family. Like, but, so this all kind of like, just my dad, you know, there being a quick snapshot into my dad, like, just, he really wasn't like an aggressive person. He's not like, he doesn't really like violent movies. Like, I guess the scariest thing that he's ever seen was the Wicked Witch from the fucking Wizard of Oz. And I still make fun of him about it to this day. So this motherfucker wants to look at me and tell me how to like be a man, but yet he's getting scared because of, I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog too. Like, come on, Dad. Like, you are like, who's giving out the spankings? You or grandma? Like, what? Like, like I said, I still make fun of him to this day. But, you know, we had kind of a rough growing up around each other. Like, not to get too deep, I just, you know, we didn't have a great, back and forth as, you know, me growing up and him trying to figure out how to parent a kid that was so close to him. Because my brother and sister, either they were here or they were in LA. So, you know, it was 7 hours, 8 hours difference either way. So they, you know, if they weren't around, they really, really weren't around, you know, and I lived in the same town with my mom. Or my mom, because the other two are, half siblings, to digress. But, so I lived in town, and we just didn't have the kind of, you know, we didn't understand each other, and it wasn't anything like super dramatic. It just, I grew up seeing him in a certain light, and, he didn't like to think of him in that light. And so there we clashed heads a few times, but nothing bad. We never got in a fight like some of my friends and their dads or anything like, but it was just, it was kind of one of those like, damn, like I really wish that could have been a better relationship growing up. Now, to set this up with that sad kind of intro, sorry guys, this is an MMA podcast, but no, to set that up is like, I really tried to bond with him. So like, fantasy football, like, watching basketball games, and both of us fucking hate basketball, and he played it. Like, you're just doing things to try to like, sports wise is something we can bond over. So like, I've been trying so hard to get him to watch MMA. So hard to watch MMA, right? And then Chris Weidman, Anderson Silva 2, the rematch, after Weidman shook the world up and knocked Silva out in the first round. That card was coming on. I was like, ooh, this is going to be a good one, because Silva's going to bring his A game. Chris Weidman's not going down. And so it was like, all right, man, here we go. Like, this is a good one, because there was also Ronda Rousey, Miesha Tate. Now, I don't remember the rest of the card off the top of my head, but those were the two fights. And oh man, that Rousey Tate fight right before the Weidman Silva 2 fight, I think it was the second fight for Rousey Tate in the UFC as well. Rousey put on a gorgeous display of judo, like to a level that I don't think we'll ever see again, and I don't think we ever saw before. That level of judo in mixed martial arts, that's almost like a cheat code or a game hack, like, damn, she just tossed Tate around like a ragdoll, really, like, and then finished the fight. But then like coming out of that fight into the next one, when they were doing the, pre-fight lead up and stuff, my dad was sitting there like, oh man, like this is really cool. Like I can't wait to, I can't wait to see the next one if you think that these guys are even higher level fighters. And it was like, well, yeah, I mean, it's fucking Anderson Silva and the guy that knocked him out. So of course I expected it to be a pretty good fight. And the first however long was just fine. And then I don't remember if it like went more than one round or when it happened, but I just remember watching his leg fold over, Silva's leg fold over Weidman's knee. And before they could even really announce the decision, my dad was like, well, that's enough of that. Gets up and walks to the kitchen, never to watch MMA again. So like, I have this weird sort of like, not even animosity towards Chris Weidman, but it's just like, dude, did you have to check that kick? Like, like, my dad won't even watch fighting anymore, man. Like, so it's, I don't know. When it happened this weekend, it was so much worse than the Silva fight, because the Silva fight, honestly, like, after what, like, Silva was 40 at the time, after how many professional fights, something's got to break at some point. Now, you would hope to never see it. You would hope to just hear about it, in like online or something, and like, oh, okay. Then you see an X-ray, and you're like, oh wow, that happened, huh? Wonder how that happened. Like, he probably just walked it off and went to the doctor and like, hey, my shin's hurting. He was like, oh, well, it's split in half. It's not even attached. No, but like to see it fold over and then to see him like kind of step on it and then it kind of like Gumby out. It was just like, dude, like that was pretty rough. And he's sitting there writhing in pain, and oh, dude, it was terrible, just terrible. And then this weekend, that happened, that Silva one happened so long ago, people forgot. And like, until it happened to Weidman, nobody like talks about that anymore, because it was such a gruesome thing, and it was so violent and so like, so not the point of mixed martial arts. Like, maybe like in like a death fight in a movie, like you're like, yeah, you break somebody's fucking shin over your knee and then they writhe in pain and you snap their neck or just walk away or whatever. But like in a professional sport, like you don't want to see that. That's like, I've watched guys running to first base snap their fucking leg just running. It's gross. It sucks to see. It sucks to think about them going through it as a person, as a healing process, anything. Like, that whole thing just sucks. And so we do a pretty good job as a society of putting it out of our heads. And then this weekend happens, and you have to think going into it, this is not even nearly on anyone's mind. Even Chris Weidman, who's been a part of it. let alone happening to him, you know. So 17 seconds in, you're just activating your game plan. All right, I'm gonna fucking rifle a kickoff so I can establish the kicking game, because right now leg kicks are in. And so you throw that kick to establish your game plan, and you snap your shin in half. That was horrible. Now, when I was watching it as it happened, you can, like, off of the initial view, you see the leg fold, and anyone who's seen that before, like, pretty much anyone that watched the Silva Weidman one, you know that. So it happens, and I was like, oh God, oh no. And then he steps back on it. He was like, no, don't step. And then it just folds. He completely buckles and folds on it. And oh God, I'm getting the willies just talking about it, man. Oh, he folds on that leg. Oh, so I'm not laughing at him. Oh dude, it's making me so uncomfortable even just to think about it. And like, I had to watch the replay just to make sure that I was that certain about the situation so I could talk about it. But believe me, guys, no part of me wanted to actually watch that replay. And then, I had friends texting me who couldn't watch the fights, telling me to send them a replay of it. Now, this is a blanket statement. So if you're my friend or not, like, whether you're going to hit up anyone on MMA Torch, we're not going to post stuff like that. Like, we're not, like, we may post funny, knockout memes of people, talking shit and then getting knocked out. Or, I actually posted one that was about Jorge Masvidal, like, the caption over him said, like, somebody saying, like, these edibles ain't shit. And then Kamaru Usman was the edibles. And then, he on the ground was 4 hours later. It was really funny. You guys should like and comment. I don't know. It was just, but we're never going to post people breaking their legs like that. That's not something we want to highlight the sport with, but that is always the danger, is something like that happening. Because what it could have easily been, and what we've never seen in the UFC, especially on a big pay-per-view card, is what if he had thrown that kick higher, kicked him in the jaw and killed him? You know what I mean? Or kicked him in the temple and killed him. Or, like, the foot goes astray and he catches, a toe to the eyeball and it pops out the eyeball, and that, like on pay-per-view, and everybody sees that. Like, there's no way to brace for that kind of stuff, guys. Like, we're all just lucky that sicker crap hasn't happened, and it sucks because that is such an inherent danger. But martial arts and mixed martial arts are such beautiful things. To see people doing that kind of stuff, yeah, man, like, we all have to remember that when stuff goes awry, we're very, very soft as just like a material being, not as, like, like a mind frame or anything. Like, MMA fans are, hard-nosed people, but in terms of, like, humans, we're kind of squishy. Like, even the toughest and the strongest still kind of squishy, like that's why, like, sharks don't have to, like, wrestle to chew our arms off, because when they bite us, man, that's a force of nature right there, man. That's going straight through us. Like, we're soft, like, we're soft, squishy things. And the only thing hard about us is a hollow piece of probably mostly calcium and some minerals. Like, I don't know, man. It just doesn't seem necessarily real that we could just go around kicking things as hard as we do, let alone some of these guys that rifle off these just incredibly hard kicks. Like, cause those kicks land. I don't know if, you guys saw, a couple of the other fights, but there was, like, red marks on legs everywhere. Like, a couple of these fucking leg kicks land. Yeah, you can check one, but if you don't break somebody's shin and you just, like, check it, yeah, that's going to hurt the other guy a little bit, but it's going to take maybe a minute. So, until he doesn't really feel it the same way as he did when it first hit. And he's going to be more confident to throw another one. Like, you're going to really have to batter somebody's shins with your checks to get him to stop doing that. And even though, Chris Weidman broke his shin in 17 seconds into the first round against Uriah Hall, that didn't stop Jessica Andrade in the next fight, moments later, from starting the fight with the first strike being a leg kick. Like, that's a bold move, Cotton. Like, the guy before you breaks his leg in half throwing that same kick goes presumably right by you in the back room. Like, and you come out and try to throw a fucking leg kick on one of the best mixed martial artists that's ever walked the planet. Like, bold move, Cotton. Like, hey, hats off to Andrade for doing that, but that was hilarious. Sorry, I'm still on the Hall Weidman thing because this sucks, man. Like, the leg break for Chris Weidman, that sucks so badly just for what it is, cause we might never see Chris Weidman be Chris Weidman again. Now, I can't imagine he would have beaten Adesanya. I can't imagine he would have even won his way to fight Adesanya, but hey, he's beaten Silva, so, man, it's just sad. It's just sad. He's a real gentleman of the sport. They even call him the All-American. Like, the thing that I really want to emphasize to you guys with Chris Weidman and Uriah Hall, this fight ending the way it did, is unfortunately, one of these guys, Uriah Hall in this case, they're on the final path. They're on that Donald Cerrone, hey, win a couple fights, you might get Conor McGregor, or you might get a championship shot. So, he shows up against, he shows up against Chris Weidman thinking, if he loses, you gotta think he's not going to make his way into the top 10 again. And if he does, it's not for a title shot purpose. It's just because there's too many scrubs under him who can't beat him, and then he's going to get old and he's going to get crippled. And then it's going to be an Anderson Silva all over again situation to where he has to, pass the torch. And it's just like, God, man, it sucks to think of either Uriah Hall or Chris Weidman as that guy, but that's what happened on Saturday night is Chris Weidman, his body broke. Now, you would like to think that Uriah Hall broke him in a fight, but no, Chris Weidman's body just broke. And I can't imagine that he's going to come back at the level that he was ever at, or that he's ever, like a higher level that he was going to get to. Like, I can't imagine that just, you can't, not at his age, and he's not even that old, so it's not like Silva who's like 40 and it's just like, oh, cool, he's making a comeback, but he's not a championship caliber fighter. Like, they're only giving him that kind of credit because it's Anderson Silva and he can draw a lot of names, but Chris Weidman never had the name Silva had, so we're looking at things right now and they're not looking good for Chris Weidman. And as for Uriah Hall, he didn't even get the chance to really showcase if he's progressed a level. So it's really hard to talk about his next fight. Like, I mean, who's there to fight Uriah Hall? Let's take a look at who is there to fight him. I mean, oh man, I'm looking at the rankings right now, guys. It's not looking great. Like, do you want him to fight Jack Hermanson, who's, number 8 and Hall's number 7 and Hall's number 8? Not really. I don't really want him to fight Kelvin Gastelum either, because Kelvin Gastelum has honestly been the victim of some really, really good fights that have ended in losses for him. Like, the part about it is Kevin Gastelum should be a 2 or a 3 rank, maybe even a number 1 contender at all times, but he's lost to most of those guys, including the champion. So, Robert Whittaker, Israel Adesanya, like, it sucks that Kevin Gastelum is that far down, because now you could justify that fight between Hall and Gastelum, right? Because they're so close in rankings. Well, I don't think that that's necessarily a fight that Hall would win just based on Kelvin Gastelum's cardio and ability to wrestle. So I just don't think that would be a good matchup for Uriah Hall. Jack Hermanson, I think same thing. Darren Till, now that might be an interesting stylistic matchup. They're both kickboxers. But then again, like, do we really want to see either one of those guys break their legs over each other's legs? Like, like, when does it end? No, I'm just kidding. But that would probably be the most plausible fight, is maybe Darren Till, just on a stylistic level. Because if you beat him, then you could justify giving Hall like a top level contender, a Vittori, not like a Vittori, sorry, he's fighting Adesanya next, but like a Whittaker or Costa or like, a Brunson, Cannonier's even still there. And I think he's even still on, coming off that loss. But like, I think Uriah Hall has to beat somebody around him in the rankings before he gets a real good fight. And I really think Chris Weidman would have been a good indicator of like where he's at stylistically, because Weidman comes to bang, but then, he's also an All-American wrestler. So like you're looking at two different sides of a game plan to where, I don't know if his game plan was going to be to strike or to wrestle because it only lasted 17 seconds, but we can bet he had a game plan for both of them. So we would have gotten to see where Uriah Hall was in terms of his movement, in terms of any wrestling that he would have had to have done, getting back up if he was taken down. Like we missed out on a lot of things by that fight ending in 17 seconds. And it sucks to say because it's at the expense of Chris Weidman's shin and probably career, but damn, that was also shaping up to be a pretty fucking good fight too. Like when I realized that was after the Crute Smith fight, I was pretty stoked because I'd honestly forgotten who the first two besides the 3 championships ones were. And then I was pretty stoked when I realized again that it was, Hall and Weidman. So man, to finish off the Hall Weidman bit, which I wish I could say more. There wasn't even like, a minute's worth of a round. There was 17 seconds of a round. If there was, a full round or even more of that one round, I could give something, but like, I guess, I guess the thing that people can watch out for is Uriah Hall's, kick chucks. Like, yeah, I mean, we could take that away from this is he's got some pretty fucking hard legs. So maybe get your kicks right, so and even that I feel rude saying, but at the same time, I got nothing from that fight other than somebody throwing a kick and it landing wrong. So shit. We'll have to see what's next for Hall. And I'm sure Weidman, it's going to be another year and a half before we even hear of him again, other than, progress updates. But that brings us to the first championship fight. Now, I have to say, Valentina Shevchenko, if you're listening, ice cream in Chico, where I live, there's a place called Schubert's, and it's nationally recognized. So if you ever want some really, really good ice cream, I mean, it's on me, so I got you. But yeah, I mean, you probably have to come to Chico for that. That aside, I'm sure you're pretty busy. But what can you really say about such a dominant performance? Valentina Shevchenko is so perfect in every single way. I'm looking at her stats right now just to get the measurables, and wow. And I'm not talking about her figure, guys. I am not talking about her. I'm talking about her stats from the fight. Like, this is such a well-rounded fighter. She threw 97 total strikes, landed 90 of them. She only didn't land 7 combined. Are you kidding me? Like, what? But she landed all of her body kicks, all of her body strikes, all of her leg strikes. She only missed 7 head strikes out of 34. She went 27 and 34. And those are the only total strikes that she missed. That is incredible to me. Her significant strikes were also based off of the head ones too. So you got 32, 32 significant strikes landed out of 39. So she is not only incredibly efficient, but she's incredibly precise and accurate, and she's just vicious. And the best part too is I didn't even think Andrade had even landed a punch. And I mean, the stats are saying she landed 10 significant strikes, 2 of them to the head, which makes sense because I don't remember her throwing many to the head. She threw 6, landed 2. Not like what? That, I mean, yeah, it only takes 1, but I'd really like to at least give myself more of a chance than 6 attempts. She landed all of her body strikes, which, yay, missed the 1 leg attempt and controlled things on the ground. And you can like really put, some quotations around controlled, things for about a minute. And that's opposed to literally over a full round total time of control for Valentina Shevchenko. And guys, like, this landed in the second round. So literally just based on the minutes, there could have just been a full round of her laying on her plus like 10 or 15 seconds into the next round of her just laying on her. like in terms of control. Like that's incredible that somebody can take down and hold down a bona fide wrestler who also is good with jiu-jitsu and is a high level professional fighter fighting for a championship in the UFC. Now, if you were to watch those two fight and not know anything about them, you'd be like, why are these two fighting? That one is so clearly better than the other one that this isn't even fair. And then somebody would have to say, well, who else you got, man? That's the next person up, like, so I really, and Sean and I have joked about it before. I really think that the only thing left for Shevchenko or even Nunes is to fight each other 5 times based on how these next 2 fights would, theoretically go. So you got Shevchenko, who's down 2 fights, right? If she wins the 3rd fight, which there is every reason to make, why the hell not? She's only gotten better since those Nunes losses. Nunes has gotten better. Did she overtake her in talent? I don't know. Let's see what she can do on a 3rd time. If Valentina Shevchenko was doing the 3rd fight, that would justify a 4th fight too, because it would still be 2-1. And if she won that one to make it 2-2, that 5th fight, it would be the first 5-fight-ology or whatever, 5-fight thing between 2 people that would make perfect sense and honestly be so necessary, super necessary. And, man, part of the thing is who's Valentina Shevchenko fight next, right? And realistically, there's a few fights for her. Like you can definitely justify a few names. And I want to start with like the one that obviously I started with Nunes, but there's nobody else like in her weight class. Like I'm looking at everything. Like unless she wants to fight her sister, like, and even then Antonia is like 12th or 13th or something in the rankings. Like it's so far away. Like she's cleaned everyone out, and then you don't want to shoot up a division because she's already been there, against Nunes. But if you shoot down a division, which I don't think that she would go down to strawweight, but in terms of people that could fight her and make a good case for it, there's 2 of them, and they both fought in the next fight. You have Rose Namajunas and you have Zhang Weili. Now, the winner of that Weili Namajunas fight, in my opinion, needs to come up and fight Shevchenko, not only for a big payday, but because what the hell else is there for either of them? Another rematch? Because they're going to be both waiting for Joanna Jędrzejczyk to fight either Marina Rodriguez or Nina Ansaroff or, I don't even know. Those are like the only 2 that come to mind. Zhang Chaonan. Like, yeah, exactly. So winner of the Weili Namajunas fight, that's got to be the next thing for Shevchenko. And it's going to be, I think in my gut, I really feel like, and obviously I'm okay with being wrong, but in my gut, I really feel like Rose Namajunas take that intensity up to fucking Shevchenko, man. Like if we see the version of Rose Namajunas that we saw this weekend versus Valentina Shevchenko, oh man, talk about fight of the year, like that Weili versus Jędrzejczyk one, like fight of the ever right there. If you take Rose Namajunas at her best versus the best, in my opinion, technical fighter that's in the UFC right now at all, even better than Amanda Nunes technically. Now, I mean, there's a lot of things that go into those 2 fighting, but technically speaking, I think Valentina is kind of like Mighty Mouse Johnson when he was in the UFC. So technically flawless, so technically sound in every aspect. Wow. So you take Rose Namajunas at her best with her, coaching and her training, the people that she trains around, like, Gaethje, you have, Kamaru Usman, like, and then, again, Trevor Whitman's your coach. And, you're around these guys all the time. So you're around greatness. You're around Trevor Whitman's mind. You train with Trevor Whitman's gear. And I can tell you firsthand, Trevor Whitman's doing good things with gloves. So if you're looking to spend some extra money, just, one of those stimmy checks on a pair of gloves, those Trevor Whitman Onyx gloves, they, amazing. So you're getting high level training, you're not hurting yourself, and you're getting the best mind in the game. Now, I would only put him up with Firas or Hobby in terms of how good of, coaching minds they have. But like, it's hard to argue with Trevor Whitman. He's got 3 champions right now. Like, or at least he had 3 champions. Sorry, Gaethje lost the belt, but he faced Khabib, so whatever. Like, same thing. Like, so this guy has just coached 3 people into being champions. And with Rose Namajunas, it was only like about a minute and 17 seconds into the fight when she knocked out Zhang Weili. Now, I don't mean to cut off the Valentina Shevchenko talk. It's just, we all knew that was going to happen. So like, what more is there to say? She faced Jessica Andrade, which people have already ran over. So what, she beats Rose Namajunas, loses to Rose Namajunas, and then she gets to face Valentina Shevchenko? That doesn't make sense. But okay, so we talked about it. But other than me pleading for Valentina Shevchenko to please let me take her out to ice cream, I have really nothing else to say about that particular fight. I just want to talk about the next fight and where that fight's going to lead, hopefully back to Valentina Shevchenko. So, I don't know, man. Those two, Namajunas and Weili, not very many strikes thrown. It was only a minute 17. It was more of a feel out process. But even within that small amount of time and that same sort of feel out process vibe, you really thought that they were just feeling each other out, kind of more respecting each other. But it was Namajunas that was in turn actually setting something up. Now, I'm sure Weili had a plan, but when Rose Namajunas, threw out a couple, punches, and then she kicked at the legs, and then she threw out a couple punches, kicked with the legs, couple more punches, kick with the legs, couple more punches, kick with the legs, and then she goes for, actually she only, hey, I'm looking at the stats, like, it doesn't even say that she even kicked her legs, but no, she definitely she set the head kick up with leg kicks. Like, she went, punch, punch, legs, punch, punch, legs, punch, punch, legs, and then she threw the leg kick up, she threw the head kick on the same rhythm that she was throwing the leg kicks. Now, if you go back and watch the replay, and this is why I'm kind of shocked that it's not showing Namajunas has any leg strikes attempted. If you go back on the replay, she'd set it up so well that when she went to go, turn the hips to fire the kick, Weili, you can actually see her clear her legs. She does that little hip thrust backwards, and, she shot her hands forward for the counterbalance, and that left her head completely exposed. Now there's still arms out there and around there, so it's, double good on Namajunas for landing the way she did, because her hands were a little high for that counterbalance, but she still snuck the leg in that big old gap right in front of her face. Like, she did not have her hands ready to defend. That's what I'm getting at. But that little hip thrust back, that's what you do if you think you see a leg kick and you think you read a leg kick, is you clear the legs. I mean, if you catch it like fast enough, maybe check it, but usually you just avoid any damage because you don't know if that leg kick's going to hurt or if it's accidentally going to do something else. You just avoid the damage. And if you go back and look, the legs were cleared with Weili, but her face was exposed, and honestly, her chin was out. So then she catches that kick to the face and goes down. Namajunas lands a couple more blows. They end the fight. And then Weili gets up, and, I get it, man. She's super prideful, and, she doesn't want to think that she just lost her championship on national television so fast or like that after going, a fucking 25-minute knockout war with Joanna Jędrzejczyk, so like, she doesn't want to believe it. But then she's like, no, I was still there. No, you weren't. I was rooting for you, and no, you weren't. That's the worst part to me, is like, I'm looking at it now, and no. She got kicked in the head, and she was done. And I don't really, I've never been in that situation, so I don't really understand. I've never been a UFC champion. I've never been knocked out in the UFC or ever, but I can imagine it's got to be kind of cloudy. Like, you're like, whoa, I don't remember being on the ground. I don't remember all these people I was fighting a second ago. And then he's like, no. You got kicked in the head and you went fucking down. And then to tell yourself, no, I didn't. And it's like, well, yeah, you might have some like snapshots of like, thing like, like, oh, I saw a fist hitting my face. Like, I remember rolling. Like, there may be parts and pieces that you can put together, but dude, like, we all saw it. She got kicked in the jaw. She went down like she got kicked in the jaw. And then she got hit and she got controlled enough unanswered blows and enough control of the ground and lack of self-defense, because you do have to defend yourself. She was done. And it really sucks that that's how she came to, because then, her translator is trying to like, make it sound like she's not an idiot. And I'm sorry, man, but like, that's gotta be a hard job for a translator when you just watch this lady get knocked out and then she tries to defend herself to the entire pay-per-view audience about how no, she didn't. Like, no, I was fine. I was good. And it's like, no, you fucking weren't, dude. Like, he's just looking at her like, okay, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, so, yeah, I mean, hats off to the translator, but that's gotta be a tough job when that kind of thing happens. But then, man, like, that sets the stage for Namajunas Shevchenko, which is funny because, after that fight, when Rose won, they were showing Valentina and her, like, embracing, like, oh yeah, you did really good. Yeah, it's really cool. It's like, dude, you guys are probably going to fight next. I hope you guys fight next. That's the only thing that makes sense for you to fight next. Like, that's where the pay-per-view draws. Rose Namajunas just, I don't want to say she made her name. She already had a name, but I think she just, rose from the ashes like a phoenix and made her name bigger. And, that's the thing is, if you can get somebody with a big enough name to fight Shevchenko, you're gonna make money because everyone knows who she is. Few of us actually watch her fight. I'm looking at all you guys. Come on. Like, every Valentina fight is worth watching, and they put her on fight nights consistently, habitually, just to get her fights out of the way because she's at that kind of a level. Give her Rose Namajunas, and it'll probably headline the card. If not, still be a co-main event with something good like an Usman versus whoever's going to get their head knocked off next, or Francis Ngannou versus whoever he's going to kill next, or Jan Blachowicz. Like, come on, man, there's so many good fights. Maybe like, I think they've already set the Poirier McGregor 3 fight, but if they haven't, why not put the Namajunas Valentina Shevchenko fight on there? Neither of them got hit that much. Like, there was maybe like 3 significant strikes between Andrade and Wei Li in either of the fights, and none of them actually made that much of a difference. Like I said, Jessica Andrade only hit Shevchenko in the head twice. She's fine. Shevchenko didn't even look like she was touched. Didn't have any bruises from kicking, wasn't like, limping around at all. Like, she looked like she probably could have fought the winner of the next fight right then and there, which would have been cool with. But so did Namajunas. She didn't even really get hit. There was like punches thrown at her, but she didn't even really get hit, and then she just kicks this lady in the face. Fight's over, round 1. I think Namajunas Shevchenko makes a lot of sense. So with that being said, Jorge Masvidal, Kamaru Usman, the battle for who is the real. Now, this may not be the BMF belt, but man, I gotta say, like, as many doubts as I had about Usman after that Burns fight, I wasn't really doubting that much, and I see how far he's come and everything, and I'm really thinking, okay, he might be real. And then Masvidal gives him that, before the Burns fight, but Masvidal did give him that 5-round war coming into this fight. 5 rounds off of 2 weeks notice. Sorry, 6 days notice, not even 2 weeks. He wishes he had 2 weeks notice. 6 days notice. And then it turns into, this whole build up to it. There's a lot of shit talk, the weigh-ins are intense. I really, really in my heart really thought that Masvidal was going to come out and really just do something magical. I'll even contend that Usman coming into the fight was always the better athlete, always the better fighter, more skilled technically and everything, talented even. But I just have this feeling Jorge Masvidal is going to come in and he's going to give him a good old fashioned blessing, man. Street Jesus is going to bless a motherfucker. But Street Jesus got blessed, guys. And I gotta say, in about 50 plus fucking fights, it is insane that I ever doubted Kamaru Usman up to the point that I did. Cause it's been a while. It's been a few fights that I've really, really doubted him like I used to. But after that, I am so solidly a believer of Kamaru Usman that I really want to go back in time and smack myself in the head and tell myself to stop being stupid because wow. Just tit for tat, man. Trevor Whitman, just magic. He is doing gorgeous things with these fighters. He is giving them game plans. He is giving them results. He is giving them the way to train, how to train, what to train with, who to train with. Like, Trevor Whitman is doing some beautiful things with this sport. And it is so crazy because there's another generation that's not even going to be fighters. They're going to be guys that either used to fight or grew up watching fighting and being around it. We're going to get new and improved versions of Trevor Whitman, or even on like a different term, like Freddie Roach, or one of the what is it? Dave Schultz is the one that sorry took a turn. No, just wrestling coaches. Sorry, I don't know a lot of good wrestling coaches. I'll go locally. We actually have a guy in town. His name's Keith Rollins. I play softball with his brother actually. Keith Rollins is the coach of a wrestler, and you guys could all look up highlights, man. He was an Olympic, caliber wrestler at the very least. I don't know if he ever made it to the trials, but his name's Nashawn Garrett, and man, that guy can wrestle. And his coach in high school was a local guy named Keith Rollins, and I've met Keith. Keith's a great guy, high level coach. So, I'm just trying to name off coaches right now. So there's a bona fide wrestling coach, and there's only going to be other generations who have learned from him, like the Nashawn Garretts, or, like this Gaethjes or Namajunas, Usmans. Like when they're ready to retire, they're going to be teaching people. They're going to be showing the way. And, you have to believe that Trevor Whitman's got some people around him on his staff that are also, assistant coaches and people that do corner fights for, the UFC fighters and, Bellator fighters and stuff. Like, I guarantee you there is such a plethora of room for improvement on an already crazily improving game that is mixed martial arts. There's going to be a lot of people coming up being good fighters, but there's going to be so many that are going to be growing up good coaches. Cause, it takes a special person to coach another person effectively. But then you have Trevor Whitman. Like, you're coaching multiple people super effectively at a championship at the highest level type of thing. Like, he's basically like, I can't even compare him to another coach. Like, I can't say he's like Phil Jackson. I can't say he's like Joe Torre. I can't say he's like any of those guys because those guys didn't train the baseball players that they had to manage. Like, Trevor Whitman is, pad working all these guys. He's game planning all these people. Like, seeing the things that he has done with Namajunas, with Gaethje, with Usman, like, those are the only three that I need to name. I'm guaranteeing you everyone else in that gym is at a certain level because they train with those guys. So, oh man, I'm really, really excited for what Trevor Whitman has in store for Usman's next fight. I'm really excited for what he has in store for Namajunas' next fight, for Gaethje's next fight. Like, Trevor Whitman, if you don't know who he is, look him up, do some research, find some fighters, watch their fights, and then get back to me. You can also thank me because you're going to want to. But enough fanboying over Trevor Whitman. Kamaru Usman, like Jorge Masvidal said, and I absolutely love the fact that it happened this way. Like, when he got stone cold and knocked the fuck out, he got up, went, well, shit, hasn't happened in 50 plus professional fights. Guess this guy's, his power's for real, man. He's like, I didn't think it was, but damn, it's for real, dude. Like, and then he was like, hey, no more beef. And then they were fucking dope, dude. They were fucking bros. Not like, friends, but like they were good. You know what I mean? Like beef squashed. And that's how it should be, guys. You know what I mean? Like any problems that you guys are having in your personal lives, even if it comes down to just like, a street fight, as simple as that. If you win the fucking fight, dust your opponent off, make sure he's okay. Or her. And you have to take the humility approach. If you're talking shit to somebody and you think somebody's a little bitch and then that little bitch knocks you out, well, guess what? Now you're the bitch. So at least be a fucking gracious bitch and shake his hand or her hand or their hand. Like, it's so crazy how simple that is. Talk shit, get hit, say sorry. Or talk shit, back it up. And then nobody ever fucking, talk shit to you again. And hopefully the person that you knock out, you don't go too ham on, they wake up with a little bit more respect. And those are all ideal scenarios, but then, some people just can't control themselves and bad things happen. So I'm not encouraging you guys to go fight, but I am saying if you do, be a fucking civil human being about it and at least have the humility to know when you lost. And again, let's not get too violent with it, but God, man, the respect of mixed martial arts is something we can all take a note from. Baseball players, basketball players especially, NFL players, NASCAR, everyone across the board, golfers even, fuck them. They can all take a lesson from the respect and the sportsmanship and the professionalism that comes with being a professional fighter. Yeah, there's always going to be guys that are a little high on themselves, and there's always going to be guys that need to hype up a fight to make some paychecks. But we're getting past that now. We're getting into the part of it where it's a bona fide sport. So those guys are a rare breed. The Conor McGregors of the world, the guys that like Brock Lesnar, those guys are sideshow attractions. Like we saw, once McGregor lost to Poirier, oh dude, you got to fight your way back up to the championship. You don't just get a title shot. You don't fuck who you think you are. But back in the day, dude, he probably could have lost 5 fights, still gotten a title shot. But he's such a good fight hyper that people would have watched it. And yeah, you can draw him in, but the UFC has the integrity of its new status as a bona fide sport to maintain. So they're not going to let you just do that anymore. And, again, I want to take a side note to thank Dustin Poirier for just making that third fight happen. You know what I mean? Because he could have been like, no, dude, I fucking beat him. I want Chandler, or I want Gaethje, or I want Oliveira, or I want whoever. Yeah, he could have done that all he wanted to, and it would have been completely justified. But no, he was like, no. We're 1-1. He's still a relevant fighter. This is, his second fight in like 3 or 4 years. So yeah, as long as he fights me within a couple months, then let's do it, man. Like, let's put it on. So good on Dustin Poirier for letting Conor McGregor shake off the ring rust and then fighting him again when he's not ring rusted, when he has time to train properly or do whatever makes him comfortable to get for the next fight, get ready for the next fight. So Kamaru Usman is just unstoppable at this point, guys. And I don't want to hype him up too much, but I mean, it would be really cool after the Colby Covington fight if he went up in weight class, potentially fought Israel Adesanya. Like he could possibly, with his body's type, even like, keep on some water weight, make 205, maybe fight Blachowicz. I don't know, man. There's so many possibilities, but like there's nobody under him right now that I really want to see him fight besides Colby Covington. And that's only because of their first fight. But that first fight, if it was any indication of what's to come, well, that was a few fights for Usman ago, and we've seen how good he is. Does anyone really think that it's going to be better for Colby Covington? Might be faster. I don't think it's going to be better. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I'm looking at the rankings, and like but Sensei Luque maybe, like if he can keep winning. Stephen Thompson. I mean, Leon Edwards. Yeah, you got all the guys that you would think, who are contenders who haven't really fought him yet, or maybe they have, but it was a long time ago. Like, I don't see this being something that they're going to be able to keep Usman in the welterweight division. Now, I also don't think that he can lose enough weight to go down a division and, fight for that title, even though that would be cool. I mean, there's probably better matchups from there, but I just don't think that guy's like, he's built like a brick shithouse, man. Like, I don't see him losing weight. I don't think he has weight to lose, but I can see him not having to cut as much. And if he's walking around at 195, he's got to drink an extra bottle of water to get to 205? Like, I just don't think I don't think it's that far fetched to think that we could see Kamaru Usman going up to middleweight and maybe even in the future, if it comes to that point, going to 205. He'd be a little small at 205, but goddamn, with the right coaching and the right conditioning and everything, I think he could probably give somebody a run for their money. Maybe not Blachowicz, but somebody. I don't know. I don't really know what's next. Thinking about it that hard, like, does he have to go fight Israel? Because Israel would make sense to him to fight Usman in the sense of he just went up to fight Blachowicz and lost. I think they said he's going to get Vittori next, so God willing he wins that, he's still champion. Okay, well, you maintained your championship. You may have gone up and lost, but you maintained it after that at your weight. So why not go down and try to take somebody else's belt? Like, I don't know how much weight Izzy has to lose either, but I can't imagine, the 15 pounds would be that hard for a professional like him. So I may be only thinking in super fights, but in terms of matchups and in terms of how the UFC's really shown me that they do put these fights together, if the matchup's there and the money's there, that's two of the biggest check marks you need to set up these super fights that I'm talking about. And honestly, they're not even super fights. Like, take away the championships and they're good enough to headline or co-main event any pay-per-view. You got the Shevchenko Namajunas or Usman Adesanya that I'm speculating about now. Whatever, dude. I'm just saying, come on. Let's think about it. It makes a little bit of sense. Why the fuck not? There's nobody else at those levels right now. Even, the top couple of contenders in each of those weight classes of the people that I'm talking about, they've either already fought the champion, they've already either fought the champion and lost convincingly, or they're just so visually not even close to the same level that it wouldn't be fair to put them in there at this point in their careers with the champion. Even if at one point or another they may be able to. But it's just not now. There's nobody, So I'm looking at this as kind of a card that really did set up some really cool things. And I think the only thing that I haven't really touched on right now, and this is something that Sean and I haven't been able to do a podcast on just for the scheduling reasons, but the Francis Ngannou thing. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and end the UFC 261 talk, and I hope you guys enjoyed that part of it, but damn, we didn't talk about Francis Ngannou, and we haven't talked about him for a while. So I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the scariest human being on the planet right now. I think, and there's no belt for this yet, but I think the baddest man on the planet is now Francis Ngannou, and that should be happily bestowed upon him by Mike Tyson. Like, I really think Francis Ngannou is the scariest human being on the planet. When Stipe Miocic had to resort to his wrestling, which up until that point was flawless. He could take anyone down at will at any point that he wanted to, hold him down, do whatever he wanted to, even if it was just grind out a win, he could do that. But when Francis not only stuffed the takedown, but then took his back, started laying on some ground and pound, and then willingly got up and said, nope, you gotta stand up. That I literally out loud went, oh no, that's not good for anyone else. Like, forget John Jones, man. Francis Ngannou? Yeah, so check this out, guys. John Jones is sitting there complaining about the money, like, oh, the money ain't right. The money ain't right. I need money to come back. The UFC ain't even talking my dollar amount. Like, how are they treating me like this? And it's just like, then he has the balls to be like, I want $30 million to fight Francis Ngannou. Yeah, motherfucker. So do I. I think so do all of us. $30 million for a guy that might fucking kill you on national television? Yeah. You're 30 mil? Yeah, no, I'll take it too. You might have to start at a base 15. Like, I'm saying, dude, anyone stepping in that octagon with Francis Ngannou, most of their paycheck is more like, hey, if you die, this is what we're going to give you. Like, there's no way that the UFC doesn't crap their pants every time a fight starts between Francis Ngannou and whoever the hell the poor soul is behind him, or in front of him, sorry. Behind him afterwards, but in front of him at that time. But the guy is just a behemoth of a human being. He's what we wanted Brock Lesnar to be. You know, like honestly, like wrestling aside, like, you know, the showmanship aside, he's what we wanted Brock Lesnar to be. A guy that goes in there and does one thing really, really like, you know, just graphic, violent, you know, like just fucks people up, like whether it was wrestling or like it was with Lesnar or with his hands, like it, you know, it is with Ngannou. But then, you know, progresses. Like when we realized that Lesnar had such good wrestling, it was like, oh, okay, we'll get a stand-up game. And then he just gets beaten to shit to like, you know, the likes of Cain Velasquez and Alistair Overeem and Shane Carwin and like, when you put him against a bona fide stand-up artist who could stuff his takedowns or at least not let him take him down, yeah, it was like, wow, okay, so this guy's pretty normal. He's just giant and scary. Like, whatever, you know. Give me 265 pounds of raw aggression and muscle on a fucking 6'3" frame. Yeah, I'd fuck some people up too at a pretty high level. But, but then you take Francis Ngannou, who, yeah, oh man, the power was there. That wasn't the case. Like, he knocked Alistair Overeem's head off, and, you know, he's just knocking Rosenstrike's head off. Like, he's knocking everybody's head off. You put him against somebody early on, like Stipe Miocic, well, as long as Stipe doesn't die from any of the punches that he is inevitably gonna take, he can get him down. He was a good enough wrestler, and Francis Ngannou didn't have a good enough wrestling defense or wrestling base or wrestling anything. And it's kind of a weirdly unfair advantage for Stipe because it's like, okay, yeah, but we both know that if we stand this back up, you're not going to want to keep doing this. And in fact, you might not last very long. Whereas we've never really seen anyone even hit Francis. Like, yeah, I think Stipe landed a couple punches, but like, if you hit a brick wall, does the wall really feel it? You know what I mean? So, and then the brick wall gets to hit you back. You know, so that's a part of this, you know, the early Ngannou Stipe thing, you know, leading into that fight with those two, that was really intriguing to me was just the dynamic of like, all right, we're really going to see Francis and his improvements. And then Stipe, I mean, you knew he was at a certain level. He just beat Cormier, which honestly, like, you know, give Cormier the right age. Like, you know, what was he, 36 or 37 when he was at his prime? Then you put him against Ngannou. I think Cormier could find a way to win. I do not think that Stipe was destined to win that fight, the second one. I do not think he was destined to win that any way you slice it. You know, he's having eye problems. You know, he works as a fireman a lot of the, you know, part of the year. I mean, which keeps him in shape, don't get me wrong, but like his focus is other places. And yeah, I mean, the Cormier fights were really good, but at the same time, man, Francis Ngannou was, he again, Cormier, to bring him up back into it really quick, he did not want any part of Ngannou. When that Stipe fight happened, I remember the post-fight commentary where I don't know if it was Rogan or Anik or which one of them said it, but it was just like, it's like, yo, you want to jump in there with him? And Cormier was like, nope, I'm good. I'm enjoying retirement. He's like, yep, right attitude to have, man. Don't be prideful. You know, let it go. You're 40 years old. You have a lot to live for. So just, it was really shocking to see how good Francis was though, because his striking got even more crispy, and he apparently has like a takedown defense game and a wrestling game and a ground and pound game. And that's just not good for anyone, because if you're stuffing Stipe's takedowns, you're stuffing pretty much everyone in that division's takedowns. So, man, going forward, I have to wrap it up here, but going forward, man, there are so many good fights and so many good champions right now. And we're going to get to see the next good champion emerge between the Chandler and Oliveira fight. And right now, the smart money puts their money on Charles Oliveira. If you have Michael Chandler in that fight, I'm sorry, man. Chandler's powerful. He has good wrestling, but if you don't think that Oliveira's stand up is where it needs to be, you're wrong. His ground game's always been there, so I'm not even going to touch on that. If you think that's anything less than what it is, which is perfect, you're wrong. If you think that Charles Oliveira isn't more mature and technically sound and still has the age to be good, like he still has, like, he's like 26 or 27 or something. He still has the chin of a mid 20-year-old. You know, it's not like he's been knocked out a bunch of times. Like, he's had a lot of fights, not been knocked out very many times, if ever. Like, I'm not looking at the stats at this second, but he is seldom touched. And he has so many submission wins. He has such high level decoration. Like, people thought Damian Maia had high level jujitsu, and he does. Don't get me wrong. And BJ Penn, you know, before him, like, all very, very high level, very, very reputable. But when it comes to the inclusion into their MMA game, Charles Oliveira just smokes those fools. And then, you know, he did kind of the opposite of Ngannou, where, you know, Ngannou had to develop his ground game and stuff. Well, Charles Oliveira knew his jiu-jitsu was at a certain level at a young age when he broke into the UFC. So he just, the last couple of years, all he's been doing is training stand-up, pretty much. You know, I mean, of course, I'm sure he grapples and stuff. You just keep fresh and limber and stuff. But by and large, most of his training has come with the pads and the hands and the feet and the legs, man. Like, I'm excited for that card. So there, I mean, there's so many good fights coming up. There's the Pokraka versus Dominic Reyes fight. It's a fight night coming up, I think, this weekend. And there's just, guys, there are so many fights to be excited for. So I am going to wrap it up from here. And normally it would be, you know, served up on a nice silver platter for me from Sean. But this is Sporticus, and you have been sports entertained.
Sporticus is now on Patreon. We have 3 tiers: $1, $2, and $5. You can get things like bonus episodes, chat forums, polls and voting, live stream Q&As, monthly giveaways, and fan recognition. Become a patron today.